doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Humanoid robots will actually eliminate poverty. And Tesla won't be the only one that makes them. I think Tesla will pioneer this, but there will be many other companies that make humanoid robots. But there is only basically one way to make everyone wealthy, and that is AI and robotics. 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional.
Optional.
Optional. So
We'll take that.
yeah, I mean it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional. Now, between now and then, there's actually a lot of work to get to that point. And I always recommend people read Ian Banks' culture books to get a sense for what a probable positive AI future is like. And interestingly, in those books, money doesn't exist. It's kind of interesting. And my guess is, if you go out long enough, assuming there's a continued improvement in AI and robotics, which this seems likely, the money will stop being relevant at some point in the future. Now, there will still be constraints on power, like electricity and mass. The fundamental physics elements will still be constraints. But I think at some point, currency becomes irrelevant. If civilization continues, which it probably will, then AI in space is inevitable. I always have to preface that. We shouldn't take civilization for granted. We need to make sure to take care to ensure that civilization has an upward.
Покажи руки! Сюда до мене, Пирер! Сюда! Те буду живи! Добре, сюда! Хорошо, не стреляй! Сюда до мене, сюда до мене! Сюда, че я буду вбити тебе! Сюда. На коліно, будь ласка. Добре.
Я назад не смогу руку вот эту завернуть. Я на слабо.
Не... 300? Ты 300?
Я уже давно 300.
What? That's a 2? Смачно. У вас є запальничка? Запальничка? Не? Добре. Hey, take these guys. Укриття на деревах. Добре. Покажи руку. Все добре. Alright. Я не буду стріляти. Американець, я не дуже понимаєш російські мови. Всі хорошо. Два. Всі добре. Сюда. Всі добре. 300? Да? Сколько?
Руки над головой связаны.
Коли йде на позиції води.
Кепни.
Тихо.
Всі добрі, всі хорошо.
Welcome back to the SCIF. It's Friday, and got a big weekend coming up. There's going to be something happening in Ukraine. We've been pushing this for a long time, and I'm optimistic. I haven't really been optimistic until this point, but it looks like Trump is serious about ending the war in Ukraine. The Europeans, however, are serious about keeping the war going, because I'm writing an article right now. The goal of the Ukraine war, I've come to believe, is simply to kill as many Easter worshipers as possible. So you want to keep the killing going. You want to keep the meat grinder going on both sides. Kill as many Slav Christians as possible, and then the land can be taken over by someone else. So this is my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Thanks for all the engagement. Tell your friends at your dinner parties this weekend. You got to check out the SCIF. Send the links. We are the best intel show out there, guaranteed. Nobody else gets close. There are competitors. There's people who have bigger audiences, but nobody has a better grasp on what's happening globally and on the ground, and has reporters everywhere. This morning I'm talking to Montenegro. I'm talking to Ukraine. I'm talking to Germany. A lot of places all night long, every morning. I'm talking to Beirut this morning, Armenia. It's just amazing what's coming into us, and we have put the time in and the effort, and as Michelle Obama would say, we've done the work to get out and build these relationships, and we're very proud of it, and we are trying to deliver the best show we can. So please tell your friends about it. Check out whatfinger.com, great aggregator site. Please hit cdm.press 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. Give us the traffic. If you see an article, click on it. Send the links to your friends. Really help us get it out there. You saw in the cold open the American mercenary on the ground in Donbass capturing some Russian soldiers. Fascinating footage. We've been over there, guys, for a while. We're essentially, along with the British, running this war. So I think that's an eye-opener. But I think the war is not going very well for the Ukrainians. And again, we're not anti-Ukraine. We're not pro-Russian or vice versa. We're pro-truth, and we want the wars to end. We want the Christians to stop being killed. But those who oppose that and want to kill the Easter worshipers are still pushing as hard as possible. Got a great show for you today. I've got Wendy Rogers from Arizona talking about the recent seditious actions by former military. The video that came out this week, President Trump went ape on it overnight on Truth. If you haven't seen that, we'll probably post that today. Bob Armstrong is going to join us. I did an interview yesterday, the attorney out of London, who is representative of the Armenian Apostolic Church and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So a really good update on what happened in Armenia and what's going on in Ukraine. Again, this is a theme we've been pushing for a long time. We've become pretty close to Bob, and we appreciate the relationship. He always answers our call to give an interview, and he's always saying, hey, man, I want to get this out. So just really, it's us and Tucker, really, the only ones that are bringing him on, if you haven't noticed. Where else on Conservative Inc. have you seen Robert Armstrong? Answer yourself that. Riddle me this, Batman. Where have you seen this? And it's nowhere but here and on Tucker. So we've also got Commander Salamander, finally got that interview done. It's long, but it's a good one, talking about sabotage inside the U.S. and what's happening to our forces and our security and our sovereignty. And he's really spot on. So I think you'll really enjoy that interview. We'll play that in the second hour. Thanks for joining us on the SCIF. Today, let's do the mission brief. Today, what's today? Geez, today is the 21st, Friday of November. I'm your host, Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. Trump is ending the Ukraine war, puts the U.S. on the hook for Ukraine for 10 years, reportedly. We're waiting to see the details. We'll dig into that story later on in the show. Sabotage in the U.S. Commander Salamander will talk about that. Middle East Christian unity. Good to see with Hungary and the Beirut Christians having a meeting earlier this week, which we had a reporter there. So again, you're not getting this anywhere else. A new U.S. deal in Bosnia. Where are you getting this anywhere else? Nobody's telling you about this. We backed away from the mission creep, the nation building, the interfering in Balkan elections, trying to push the Clinton Muslim agenda. And now we're saying, you guys work it out. We'll support you if you're looking for stability. Great article by our reporter in Montenegro, Slavish, forget his last name, Batko is what he goes by. That's what I know him by. ADHD and psychotropics, again, something you need to know about. So we'll dig into all this. Stay with us on the SCIF. We'll be right back.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this. You take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We have foot, slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to highlight one of our sponsors here, the Wellness Company. Black Friday is coming up, and the Wellness Company has one big annual sale just in time to fulfill your new year resolutions. Whether you need a kickstart to your weight loss goals or want to stock up on innovative nutraceutical blends that help you stay in optimal health, the Wellness Company has everything to keep you out of urgent care and feeling limitless as 2026 approaches. The Black Friday deals run from November 27th to the 30th. Save 25% off all supplements like Recharge, prescription scripts like ivermectin, and even peptide products like Smile. Save 20% off all emergency kits and to stay fully prepped, and 20% off one wellness memberships to offset overpriced health insurance. All of the well care you need digitally ordered and delivered to your door. This is the best time of the year to stick up on your favorite products, stock up, and the perfect chance to grab some holiday gifts for family members and friends. That's important, guys. The sale is only 4 short days, so take advantage and stock up. Head to twc.health/CDM and enjoy amazing Black Friday savings. Discounts applied at checkout. That's twc.health/CDM, up to 25% off store-wide. You can't put a price on your health. So with that, thank you for bearing with us as we pay our bills. The Wellness Company really is fantastic. And also David Cross, if you have of need of a financial advisor, I can highly recommend him. Retirement planning, divorce, sale of a business, estate issues, someone dies. What do you do with the assets? All of that, talk to David, us-am.com, US Asset Management, David Cross. Highly recommended. So I'm going to play the interview we did with Robert Amsterdam. I think you'll find this really informative. Nowhere else are you getting this coverage on Christian persecution globally. Nowhere else are you getting the insight. CDM.press is unique. We're a wire service. We have reporters all over the world. They don't want us out there, guys. We are Voldemort. We're the name you can't say on Conservative Inc. You know, Bannon kicked us off. Gateway doesn't cite us anymore. Epic won't touch us because we tell the truth, guys. We talk about election fraud. We talk about the wars. We talk about the persecution of Christians. We lay the truth out where it ends, where it needs to end. And if it ends in the wrong place, some people don't like, too bad. And that's why we are Voldemort. No one wants to know about us, wants you to know about us. But guess what? We're getting bigger and bigger. Looking forward to going to Pentagon first week in December for our media credentials there. And I guarantee you we're going to do some good reporting inside the U.S. military. So here we go with Robert Amsterdam. I really think you'll enjoy this. We're back with Robert Amsterdam. He was kind enough to give us some time, busy in London. It's evening there, I suppose. But thank you, Robert, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having us.
I wanted to get you because there's been a lot happening. First, I saw your interview with Tucker, which was on Armenia primarily, which was fantastic. Let's start there. Karpatyan, how do you say his name? Karpatyan is still in jail, correct?
Karapetyan is still in jail, Samuel Karapetyan. And, you know, I want to say, Todd, I was admitted to the bar of Armenia. And I was able to defend him in court, my church, a court. And it was profoundly moving. Very often when I'm in these foreign courts, I'm an observer, but I have to thank my brothers and sisters of the bar in Armenia for allowing me to plead the case with them, and also allowing me to go to prison and sit in prison with him.
Wow.
And let me tell you, a very brave, very dedicated Christian, a man jailed for his philanthropic activities, for his commitment to Jesus Christ, quite honestly, and for the fact that commitment and the sincerity with which he operates, and the incredible loyalty of so many in Armenia to him. Has the very insecure present prime minister jailing him for absolutely no reason.
So let's talk about Pashinyan. He's pushing, peace, but to get there, Armenia seems to have to accept destruction of the church and destruction maybe of their history and sovereignty. And
it's insanity. He's basically trying to take surrender and turn it into peace. I mean, it's an obscenity in terms of the church. You have here a secular individual with very little understanding of this cradle of Christ's work, talking about actually dismissing the leader of the church, the Catholicos, and replacing him with someone that he and a small group of his allies would appoint, which violates the very premise of the apostolic church in Armenia.
So, but he read Bible quotes or from memory or at the prayer breakfast. So he's for real, right?
Don't even get me started about a prayer breakfast. I mean, everybody who attended there, unless they went to stand outside the prison, should be ashamed of themselves. We have archbishops and other members of the clergy jailed. We have Christians jailed for their beliefs in Armenia. And these people go to a prayer breakfast, which I've called a reputation laundering exercise. It's absolutely shameful.
I agree, and we called out Joel Tinney, Pastor Joel Tinney, who put out kind of a tortured treatise on how it was okay to support what Pashinyan's doing because he read a Bible verse and everything's going to be great. Meanwhile, they're rotting in prison in Baku, and how many priests are jailed in Armenia? A couple dozen at this point?
I mean, I would say to you, there are martyrs in Baku, absolutely, but Pashinyan is starting, and of course, Baku, the government and the people there are largely Muslim,
Mhm.
but in Armenia, the church represents 95% of the population, and you have Christians being persecuted there.
Yeah. How many priests have been arrested at this point?
I don't have the full total. I know there's at least two, if not more, archbishops, and there are more than a dozen, I believe, other clergy and followers of one of the archbishops who have been jailed. I think a number were released actually today in Armenia. But it's completely outrageous that they would hold a prayer breakfast.
Yeah.
In fairness, that's like calling a B'nai B'rith meeting for Berlin in 1939. It's obscene.
Yeah. There is also talk of them, and I'll just say seizing Echmiadzin, which is the holy seat of the church in Armenia. It's the first Christian cathedral. Is there any update on that? I mean, I say, seize. I'm not really sure what they're looking to do, but have you looked into that?
Yes, and in fact, I was there, not at the time, but shortly thereafter. And what stopped them was a mass uprising by the people. Dedicated church followers. So I believe one of the reasons Samuel Karapetyan continues to languish in jail is because of his popularity. When I was in court, we were hearing thousands of people chanting outside.
Wow.
I mean, Mr. Pashinyan is not a very popular man. And as a result of his persecution of leading Christians, he's even less popular today.
So your client is a big benefactor to Armenia. Has given
absolutely, and I can only say that the jailing is on such ridiculous and spurious charges that when I was cross-examining the witnesses in court, I mean, it was just an embarrassment. And to show you how embarrassing it is, there was a hearing this week. I was unable to attend, but what happened was there was a newspaper that's close to the prime minister, and they announced the verdict a day before the verdict came out. and I tweeted it a day before the verdict came out.
Wow.
And it's there for everyone to see. So it's a demonstration that Pashinyan is moving closer to dictatorship. And now what he's doing is he's not only abusing the system, but he's proudly demonstrating to the world how abusive and intolerant of any form of political opposition he is. And it is a warning to the United States and the Trump administration to absolutely ensure that they assist the people of Armenia in protecting children of Christ who are being persecuted.
Well, I was going to ask you about Trump. I mean, I think Trump Jr., Don Jr., was going to go to Armenia, and then
he's canceled. He canceled.
Yes, because of the bad press with Pashinyan. And but I guess the question is Trump aware, as far as you know, of what's happening in Armenia for real?
Look, honestly, Donald doesn't talk to me as often as he used to. So I can't tell you, and I'm being facetious. I have no idea. But I know that there are people in the administration who are aware.
Yeah. Okay. Good enough. I met you because of what's happening in Ukraine, and it's very similar to what's happening in Armenia or vice versa. Do you have an update on the Ukrainian Orthodox Church?
Yes. And again, I want to acknowledge and thank you. You are one of the few journalists who have allowed me to speak. We are, those of us who have been critical of the Ukrainian junta can't really call it a government because it's not constitutional at this point. Those of us who have been critical have been subject to, awful abuse as being agents of Russia. And that recently came out in an article that was published on The Hill by a reporter named Laura Kelly, and I use the word reporter loosely, who never bothered to contact me and tried to portray our church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, as somehow a pro-war Russian Orthodox Church. And I mean, it was just, I won't get into all the details of the article. My rebuttal to the article is being released tomorrow on my X site. But I would just say to you that it was placed by a member of Congress who I think leaked it. But this member might as well be working for the SBU, the Ukrainian secret police, because he's basically, they've got what we call Ukraine brain. They cannot think outside the box. They cannot acknowledge that those who present themselves as a government in Ukraine have committed crimes against humanity in their persecution of the church. And I mean literal crimes against humanity that might find them in The Hague. And they just will not listen to reason. Individuals such as myself who are banned from Russia, who have fought the Putin regime, we are condemned as Russian agents because we are supporting, in that case, a 1,000-year-old independent church.
Yes. So I won't put words in your mouth, but I think Joe Wilson is one of the congressmen who's been very vocal on this, and I found it offensive because I have I have family who go to the Russian Orthodox Church in America, and he was calling everybody in that church, an intelligence operation. I found that just really horrific.
Listen,
I will your client, but go ahead.
I will tell you. Firstly, I will never speak ill of any church. It is not my place to speak ill of any church. I may disagree with some of the actions of Patriarch Kirill, but I am not going to ever attack people of faith in whatever religion, be that Judaism, Islam, Christianity. I'm not here to be judging people of faith. And I am certainly not going to defame the fastest growing church in the United States, which is what Joe Wilson has managed to put not only his hand and his foot, but his entire body through his mouth in what he's done this week. He's condemned the fastest growing church in America to essentially be a bunch of Putin agents.
Yeah, it was really not cool. So yeah, there was a huge pushback, and I don't think he expected that. But I think it's because you and others are putting pressure in Congress to actually look at what's going on in Ukraine. To me, that's what his reaction was against. Did you see the letter that was? I don't know if you had anything to do with that. 2 members of Congress saying what's happening to the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is not okay.
Yeah, and obviously, we've been saying it for 2 years. Unfortunately, one of my first meetings with his staff. And I'm a young lawyer. I've only been practicing for 45 years. I have never been treated so rudely. Wow. And that includes meetings when I was fighting in Russia for the survival of political prisoners. I had a better reception in Russian offices than I had in the office of this particular congressman, whose staff wouldn't even let me speak. It got to the point where at the end of the meeting, I was actually suspecting that one of the staff was being paid by the Ukrainians. I mean, this Ukraine brain is a real disease. And when you go to prayer breakfasts in Washington, you often see the whole pro-Ukrainian contingent out, including last year, a bunch of Ukrainian army officials who walked around with the state church representatives. Yeah. As if they're somehow victims. These people, many of their colleagues were thugs, beating up parishioners of the UOC and stealing churches.
Anything else, Bob, you want to get out? I appreciate your time, but I just wanted to get updates on those 2 situations, but maybe you have
No, that's fine. I'm deeply grateful to you, Todd, and let's stay in close touch.
Okay, Bob. Thanks. Take care. Enjoy the
Thank you. Bye-bye.
the bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more
Right.
warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative. Yeah, so you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. If you haven't noticed, they're coming for the food. They're destroying the beef, destroying the eggs. Maybe you need to start looking at growing your own. What if you can't get to the store for a week or 2 weeks or a month or 3 months? Maybe you need to start thinking about that. So go to CDM Food, play around with what Marjorie Wildcraft has to offer. There's a lot of free content. If you want to start growing your food for real, so you can join the Grow Network and be a part of that. It's the real deal. So we're so busy. I've been trying to get Marjorie back on the show and just haven't focused on it, but we want to do that. So let's talk about a few stories here. This one, the Balkan, the new American policy towards Bosnia gives hope for permanent peace amid economic progress. So this is on our Balkan paper. I was just over there meeting our reporters in Montenegro and in Serbia. And this one is something we're proud of. Nobody else talks about this region of the world, the Balkan.press, and that we're going to be ramping that up. It's kind of been, not in beta, but it's been percolating for a while. But anyway, we're focusing on, again, our roots in Eastern Europe and other places, along with everywhere in the U.S., the Middle East. We're really growing into a global network, and this is just proof of that. Nobody else is going to give you this story. The Clintons and the Obamas and the Bushes and the Bidens, they all pushed to support the Muslims against the Christians in the Balkans. Well, the Trump administration has backed away from that and said, we're not going to support anybody. We're just going to support stability. We don't want any more wars coming from here. So if you're open to being stable, we will support you and try to help you and provide moral support, if you will. So this is a huge change because, the U.S. embassies in the Balkans were always interfering in local affairs in Albania and Kosovo and everywhere. So this is really big progress. So check that article out if you're an international geopolitical person. This one is massive. This morning it was announced Trump's threatening to cut weapons and intel to Ukraine to pursue peace, to force peace. And France is saying, well, we must sacrifice our children. So the dichotomy can't be bigger. The divide between the U.S., who wants peace and to end the war and to end the killing of Christians, the Easter worshipers. As we say, I'm putting that article out later today. France, Europe, the UK, Germany, they're all like, keep the war going. We must continue the war. Ask yourself, why is that? Why would they want a war with Russia? It's the globalist depopulation agenda, my friends. They want tyranny. They want to destroy Western civilization. And a major war with nuclear even is good for them. So that's not cool. We're on it as usual. This one, Hungarian foreign minister meets with Lebanese Christian party leader that we've met with, Gibran Basil, for Christian unity. The Hungarians have a tough election coming up for the Fidesz party. We'll see what happens there. They would love nothing more than to kick them out of office and destroy Hungary as well, like they're doing in Poland. But it's good to see the Christians getting together in Beirut. We're going to stay on the Beirut stories. Well, I've already done that one. Let's see what we got here. Hold on while I bring up another story. 1 second, a little bit of a screw up. Here we go. This one. Millions of kids take ADHD drugs and then move on to psychotropics. Take a look at that on the Connecticut Sentinel. If you want a regional paper that's just kicking butt and blowing the pants off the globalists in the most communist state in the union, check out Connecticut Sentinel, connecticutsentinel.com, spelled the old revolutionary way. We resurrected this revolutionary paper. Check it out. It's doing massive good in Connecticut, and we'll continue to cheer on the Connecticut Sentinel team because they're fantastic. All right, that's all the stories, but I want to run an interview with Wendy Rogers, who is a state senator in Arizona. I did it yesterday. She was traveling and kind enough to beam in from Starlink in her car, driving across Colorado. The signal was actually pretty good, so I think you'll enjoy this. And this is about the video the Democrats put out pushing treason and sedition on the U.S. military. Well, we have had a lot of unlawful orders in the DOD, specifically with the vaccines, but now the certain retired individuals are trying to instigate sedition, we believe, in the Department of Defense with following alleged illegal orders. I saw Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers put something out on that. And Wendy, I wanted to get your opinion. What do you think's going on?
Well, great to be with you, Todd. You and I both share Air Force backgrounds, and I was just appalled seeing this. And now, of course, President Trump has come out against these Democrat legislators at the federal level who have inspired, I guess you would say, and encouraged active duty service members to question legal authority.
So you and I was telling, people who are unfamiliar with this, I guess, situation, that when you're made an officer, you receive a commission by the president to enforce his will in the department as a war fighter, and that's a very serious thing. And we're trained what's illegal and what's not. And there's been a lot of presidents that have deployed troops in country if there's a rebellion. So I don't see anything that Trump's done that's even remotely illegal. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. And I think what it's doing is, as I said on a broadcast yesterday evening, it is nibbling at the edges. It's creating doubt. It's really laying a predicate, as it were, to put doubt in service members' minds as to what is legal and what is not. But moreover, it creates this environment, this sort of backdrop of doubt, so that if and when service members and or Department of War civilians question authority, then this background of questioning and doubt has been fomented. That's a very, very dangerous precedent to set.
And I didn't see the president's response, but what do you think should be done to counteract this? Maybe some forceful declarations by the POTUS? What do you think?
Well, at a minimum, and I think he's already done that as the president. And as I said on another broadcast, there are three branches of government. And for legislators, and I am a legislator. I get approached about this year after year. Why don't you enforce the law? Why don't you make sure that these actions don't happen? Legislators are not in the enforcement business. The executive is. And so legislators really have no business saying what or what should not be followed. Their job is to draft legislation and pass laws. It is up to the commander-in-chief, under whom you and I served, to be not only the chief magistrate, but also the chief executive and the commander-in-chief to enforce those laws. And as such, these senators and congressmen who say, oh, you know, we have your back and do the right thing and don't give up, those are farcical statements, because there's no way they're going to back you up. There's no way they are going to be in your corner if you err and decide to disobey an order.
Well, that's a good point, because the UCMJ is, as I've been telling people, is very specific and has a lot of teeth. And if somebody does disobey a direct order, that's serious consequences. I mean, that's jail time possibly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get this question, well, what about the most heinous of them all, U.S. Senator Mark Kelly, who's from my home state of Arizona? What about him? Could he, say, for example, be recalled to active duty and court-martialed? I mean, I get this question. And, you know, I looked that up, and he cannot, for speech that he's made since he has retired. But as a senator, and then this goes for every one of them who spoke on this video, they can be charged with sedition in and of their own right, post-military service, after their military service, as anybody could be. And so that is what really remains to be seen. Now you're going to ask me, well, is there enough evidence to do that? That again is remaining to be seen. But boy, have we gotten a lot of feedback. I'm sure you have, and I have, over the last 48 hours. People are just appalled. And I think politically, this is a big case of overreach, and I think it's going to backfire on them.
Completely agree. And I guess any charges would be in the civilian realm. If they were, I mean, it would be DOJ. It wouldn't be, you know, Department of War that would charge any action. I would think that in sedition under the civilian code. But let me ask you, while I've got you, what's going on in Arizona? Any progress on getting the state's elections cleaned up, in your opinion?
Great question. We are at the pointy tip of the sword with election integrity. I'm actually the chair of the Senate Judiciary and Elections Committee. We had a much better 2024 set of elections because we had eyes on the processes, largely, of course, in Maricopa County, which has, you know, 3/4 of our voters in it. I represent 4 rural counties. We only have 15 counties in the state. They're huge, vast areas. And so we had a much better, cleaner process. But there is still a very troubling trend in the executive with our governor, so-called, who's the most unpopular governor among all 50 governors, I'm told, and our attorney general, who only won by 200 votes because roughly 10,000 votes never were counted, one of whose was my husband's. And so what we have here still, and what you're probably reading about in the national news, is you know, this pair of executive branch officers in Arizona who have continued going up against the alternate electors. Now we have had this situation where our governor has been shown to have accepted monies inappropriately and given concessions to a certain child welfare organization. And so these are disturbing trends. We've had, thankfully, though, the capacity as the Arizona Senate to go after these two individuals with lawsuits. And so my colleague, another Arizona senator, the Senate President Warren Peterson, has done yeoman work in acting this way, because in our state constitution, it's clear that if the state attorney general fails in her role, then it falls upon the state Senate president and the state House speaker. And so they have worked together and been a party to, I want to say, about 100 lawsuits in the last couple of years. So we have been fighting very, very hard, and we will not be taken lightly. What we hope and are working toward having happen for 2026 is to have the governor replaced by the great Congressman Andy Biggs, who is running for governor and is leading in the primary polling by, I want to say 20, 30, 40%. But it's gonna be a challenge for him to beat the Democrat, because they come in with all kinds of money.
Yeah. Is this going to take a federal response in Arizona to clean up the elections, do you think?
I think that's ongoing already. Great question. I wrote a 2-page letter to the president and to Secretary Lutnick, asking them to look into the various aspects of our elections. And I know that Attorney Kurt Olson, who you and I know as a former Navy SEAL, is now working for President Trump, and I am in touch with him. And I know that other sources within the executive at the federal level are looking into Arizona.
Wendy, thank you so much for your time. I caught you traveling across the. Where are you, in Arizona, traveling, or where are you?
No, I'm traversing across Colorado.
Oh, wow.
We were in Crestone last night, rolling into Denver here in the next couple of hours to see family, and then back to Arizona for Thanksgiving. But we're not in session right now, Todd. We start back up in January, and yet I have been pretty busy.
I've
because
seen it.
And a good thing I don't have a day job like a lot of my colleagues. I mean, we're supposed to be a part-time legislature and go back to our ranches and farms and plowshares after maybe 2, 3, 4 months in the legislature. It's morphed into this situation where we are in session from typically January through June, and then in the other 6 months I'm still busy with constituents, and now, because for the last 4 years we've been in the limelight at Ground Zero in Arizona because of this national need to clean up our elections. And that goes to the voter rolls, that goes to the processes leading up to election day, and we're getting there.
Wendy Rogers, Arizona State Senator, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. And follow me on X, Wendy Rogers AZ. And also please visit my website, wendyrogers.org, wendyrogers.org. I have to run every 2 years, so if you want to throw a little love my way on wendyrogers.org, I'd be very grateful.
We'll get this out to the audience. Thank you so much, Wendy. Take care.
Thanks, Todd. God bless America.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Okay, a couple stocking stuffers. Nucleo Boost to start. The capsules. Check out cdmnutrition.com and look at the subscription. One of these a day. Keep the doctor away. Gives you everything you need at the cellular level. Can't say that word today. And it gets it into the cell, and it's all the nutrition your body needs at that cellular level. This is the powder, and check it out, cdmnutrition.com. Also, my book, Currency. Anywhere books are sold, by historyofbooks.com. First in the series for Connor Murray. Great reviews. And if you love history, geopolitics, finance, just a great read. Kind of in the, I've had people call it Clive Cussler and Tom Clancy mix. So check it out. Great book, Currency. We've sold a lot of them and still getting great reviews and still selling. So please, great Christmas gift for that somebody who has everything. Now I'm going to bring in Commander Salamander, and I think you'll enjoy this video. Welcome back. We're back with Commander Salamander, one of our knowledgeable naval experts, but we want to talk about something else today, which is infiltration into the United States by the Chinese Communist Party. Thanks for joining me, Commander.
Well, thanks a lot, Todd. I really appreciate the invitation to come on again.
So I had you on, and you were good enough to remind me because we started talking a few weeks ago, but about this Chinese land, I think it was a trailer park or something next to Whiteman Air Force Base.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think it brought up, and it may be very, very innocent because, part of what got everybody's attention is when you look at Whiteman Air Force Base, which for those that may not be familiar with it, everybody loves to talk about our B-2 bombers, which we use to buy some time against the Iranians when we hit their nuclear plants. And it really is a unique platform. We only have 19 of them. That's 19 that'll make a shadow on the ramp. And for maintenance and for a variety of other reasons, how many are actually mission capable at a time? Probably a half of that. So it's a very efficient to put all of your eggs into one basket, but you need to walk carefully, so to speak. So we've got all of our B-2s at one base. And if my memory serves me right, runway 01, which is at 010, which is northeast, that runway, if you take off out of there, by the time you're gear up, about a third of a mile to your right, which is one lap around the your basic high school track, is a trailer park. And that trailer park is owned by an LLC, the limited liability company. And that limited liability company is owned by, I think, one or two more limited liability companies. It's a nest in a nest, which is done innocent people will say, well, I'm just sloppy and I have a variety of investors I work with. But what it really is, it's a way to hide ownership.
Sure.
And when you actually find out who the ownership is, it's a Chinese national of questionable character.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago. And it might very well be innocent. It just might be one of those ways that people find to park money. Because we are a high trust society who doesn't realize the rest of the world is not high trust. We and other nations that are high trust, though with each passing year, we're less high trust because of it. A lot of nations come to us to hide their ill-gotten gains. There's a lot of money laundering that goes on involving real estate. Not saying that's the case here, but many people are saying that there are other cases where this is where people find a way to park money. Not only park money, but park influence. About a half decade ago, I could be wrong, Governor DeSantis in Florida really was ahead of the power curve here. Other nations, other states in the U.S. have come along as well. Passed a state law that prevents nationals from the People's Republic of China, Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran from owning property within a certain distance of sensitive facilities, including military bases. And there's a lot of, as you would expect, the gnashing of teeth and rending of clothes about that. But as people have started to pull the thread on it, more and more people are starting to realize Americans can't go over to China and buy thousands of acres of their most valuable land next to their most sensitive facilities, but we sure do let them do it here. And it's not just here. Again, this could be very well innocent, very innocent.
Well, I don't think it is. The fact they tried to hide it is proof enough that it's not. But go ahead.
And it's replicated all over the U.S. You and I could literally spend an entire semester just going state by state, county by county, going, really, why is this here? Why is this here?
Yeah.
Why are we letting people park their capital in these places? But there was an interesting study that was done in the UK that has a bunch of people shrugging their shoulders. And it did an interesting metric, which this is why, if you've watched the movie Moneyball about baseball, the guy who is the focus of it, he was an economist by training, but numbers are numbers. It's kind of like the margin call, where it was a rocket scientist who figured out that the credit default swaps on mortgages was garbage. Math is math. And so, one thing economists do is they attach numbers to certain characteristics and they look for patterns and things that fall outside of the normals. And what was interesting here, and I don't know whether it was an economist that did this, but and I'm plus or minus a couple of decimal points here, but there was a study done in the UK that in the UK, for every 2 Indian restaurants, there's 1.4 Chinese restaurants. Interesting figure. One would assume you spread that out and that random sample plus or minus half a standard deviation will be replicated in 87.6% of cases. However, what they found out is around some of their most sensitive military bases in the UK, including their nuclear ones, and as you're probably familiar with, the US nuclear program and the British nuclear program are hand in glove. They're one and the same. If you learn something about the British nuclear program, you've learned 80% of the American nuclear program. They will have, in some places, 5 Chinese restaurants to every 1 Indian restaurant next to these bases. And they don't know why. But they have had some cases where they've had some arrests here for espionage associated with these locations. But when you really look at it and what you try to accomplish here, there are, and this doesn't include people who have immigrated, like the Hong Kongers who came to the UK and became citizens. These are passport holding citizens of the People's Republic of China. In the United Kingdom, there's 500,000 of them. If you upscale that population-wise to the US, it comes to a bit over 2.5 million. We don't have 2.5 million. The figures that I saw one figure that was 1.4, other was 1.7. In any case, this is a huge pond that you've got to find the one bad fish in. So, and we know, especially in the last, during the Biden administration, but even before then, we have thousands of military-aged males from the People's Republic of China were just let to cross the border. They're not all working in kitchens in your local restaurant. So should things go sideways in the Western Pacific, the American security services will logically focus on where are the PRC nationals do we need to be concerned with. When you have these huge bodies of people who you've got to sift through them to find your most important people.
Yeah.
And when they also own property and they've been there for a while, that trailer park might be very innocent. But remember the Ukrainians, special forces earlier this year, where they penetrated all the way into Siberia with tractors full of drones. And they managed to take out a lot of the strategic air forces of the Russians.
30%.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no excuse to have a drone capable base right next to the B-2 base. I mean, that's insane. Not even hitting one on takeoff, but just hitting them on the ramp. You know, I've been talking about this for decades.
Yep. And it's a feature and a bug.
Mm-hmm.
We're a free nation, a republic founded on individual liberty. We rightfully and healthfully recoil. And of course, everybody gets the knee-jerk reaction from what FDR did with Americans that just happened to be of Japanese extraction after World War II. So that always gets thrown in your face during World War II, excuse me. But this is different. These are PRC nationals. And I had one little example of where this is when we were getting ready for the show. And unfortunately, more people don't know about this, but the latest news on the 12th of March, the U.S. Attorney for Michigan announced that, and you'll have to pardon me, my Chinese is not that good, but a 33-year-old researcher, Yongqing Zhan, of the People's Republic of China, pled guilty for something that doesn't sound very good, smuggling in a biological pathogen.
Yeah.
The good people watching our borders caught him bringing in a fungus called Fusarium germanicum, which for a guy who studied Latin for a few years, I could have done better there. Anyway, he was working out of the University of Michigan lab. What that fungus is, it's called a head blight disease. It hits all your major grain crops.
Yeah.
We don't have it in North America. They do have it in China. And what they found out by grabbing this guy's phone and a few other things, I'm sure that they're not sharing with us. The People's Republic of China funded this guy's research in China on this fungus, and he is a member of the Chinese Communist Party.
There you go.
And so it's not just people buying property. It's not just shell corporations that have questionable characters. And this is something that I've been writing about for over a decade. And anybody like me who has kids in college in STEM degrees, especially in grad school, and you go to the graduation ceremonies and people get their masters and PhDs, the amount of passport carrying people from the People's Republic of China that are taking limited seats at our best research institutions, and they're not studying non-technical degrees. These are, biostat, physics.
So why is Trump allowing 600,000 Chinese students to continue?
He is poorly briefed into the situation, and I don't think he appreciates it. And that's one of the things that he has done since he's become president that has had my spines come out more than anything else. Yeah. It's a malpractice. We've been doing it for generations. Somebody got hold of him, and this is what gets me with the academics. Is they'll tell you, well, they pay full ride. We get lots of money for that.
Yeah, all our universities would collapse if the Chinese can't come here and spy.
Maybe we have too many universities, or maybe we could limit it. Hey, you want to come get your PhD? That's great. UC Santa Barbara, you can get a PhD in Latina studies. Why don't you go there and get that degree? Mm-hmm. But why don't we have Americans. And if we want to get some international vibrancy, then why don't we invite some Japanese, some Brits, some French, some Australians to join us in our theoretical physics PhD programs, not somebody who's going to take that back to the People's Republic of China. And especially in some of the biological fields, how many COVID experiences do we have to go through before people really start to take seriously what these things can do? And again, the issue at Whitnam Air Force Base in the trailer park, it might be completely innocent, but it's a warning.
Well, you can't take the risk.
No,
you can't take the risk of being drone distance, and that's a long way today.
You don't have to have read too much Tom Clancy to follow the bouncing ball, how that can work out.
Yeah, no kidding. Along with all the other sabotage type operations we've seen, railway, food destruction, food producers, refineries. I think it's a major issue. We've been doing a show called Sabotage Sit Rep, and I may throw this on there because people need to wake the heck up.
Well, let me give you another data point there to chew on. And I get a little excited about this because it's personal for me. Though my ancestral homeland is the Magnolia State in Mississippi. Family was there for
where in Mississippi?
The right at the Louisiana-Mississippi border in Emmett County.
Yeah, my family's from Moss Point, which is right near Pascagoula.
We're probably related. My family's been there for so long. I
don't remember any salamanders in my family. But
if you're south of Jackson, we're probably blood relative. But there, I was as my relatives would inform me, I was the weird cousin who was born and raised in the free state of Florida. But in 2005, we had a bacteria come in from, here's shocking, Asia, called citrus greening. It's passed on by a Asian physolid that also showed up. It's a bug. It's also showed up in California in 2012. Nobody knows how it flew across the Pacific to get here, but when you go through Central Florida, a lot of the ripped up orange groves and derelict orange groves that you see, a lot of it is from the developers helping to our internally displaced refugees from New Jersey and New York find homes. But a lot of it's because the citrus greening has completely destroyed the citrus industry in the state of Florida. Huge impact. That's a biological weapon.
Yeah, sure.
And I could very well see if you have PRC nationals trying to smuggle in a fungus, head blight fungus that would affect cereal crops, why wouldn't a PRC national smuggle in that disease to study in a lab here and intentionally or unintentionally release it? It got here somehow. Those insects did not fly by themselves, and they did not survive an ocean-wide voyage in a ship to get to Florida in 2005. So there's a very real, is this killing people? No. But does this impact an economy? It sure does. And if you have the mindset that it's not fair that your country suffers under something and your world's greatest competitor does not suffer under that, well, if you can't solve the problem yourself, you're going to give it to them too. And that's what we have with citrus greening. So now we have the same problem that they have in Asia.
Well, I mean, I believe they fully have been doing this for decades. And you look, here's a headline for you tonight at 5:20 p.m. Farmed oysters and scallops in Japan are dying off in premature and massive quantities, up to 90% of their harvest destroyed. Government investigating. There's nothing going on between China and Japan right now, is there?
Oh no, they've been exchanging butterflies and kisses recently.
Yeah.
Which by the way, there are some people who will disagree with me on this, but this has been kind of my pet peeve for a quarter century.
Good.
I'm very happy to see Japan getting her footing again.
Yeah, for sure.
It's right. I just wish they could get their birth rate up. Same with Korea.
Well, so that's something we need to watch. And so how do we get the Pentagon's attention to this? I mean, it's unacceptable. It's like in Vietnam when you had all the Air Force guys with their brick radios walking around talking out in the open before all the flights took off, and the VC just sat on the fence and, okay, they're coming again now. We're listening to them on the radio. I mean, how do you stop this insanity?
we have to have the right people in Congress willing
Yeah.
to pass laws, and we have to have the executive branch realize the seriousness of what we're facing here.
Mhm.
There, you will get. I was talking with an acquaintance of mine who's ear deep in the military-industrial complex, and that's okay. We need good people there. And he was pinging on me about some of the things I've written recently,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, if that means that people are going to have to suffer with the flying monkey defense lobbyists going around Congress trying to stop it, so be it. But it's a good fight. It's a fight worth having. And I think this is one of those circumstances too. It's not as strong, I don't think, but I reserve the right to be wrong here. The China lobby is huge because there's a lot of money to be made. Talk to folks in Australia about how hard the China lobby is fighting people who are trying to do the right thing for national security over there. And we still have, believe it or not, in our quote official unquote organs in the State Department, a lot of China doves, a lot of pro-China people who even if they recognize what the People's Republic of China wants to do, and you don't have to imagine it, they'll tell you it's inconvenient to them. They have their entire academic and think tank careers and their government careers around a different view of what they wanted China to be. And I think the best encapsulation of that was President Obama's, we welcome China's peaceful rise speech, blah, blah, blah. And those people do exert a lot of influence, and they think people are overreacting. I think if given the higher direction and guidance and commander's intent, the Pentagon will respond. The FBI will respond. The CIA will respond.
Well, they shouldn't have to respond. They should be out in front dealing with this on a proactive basis. Maybe they are, but it doesn't look like it. There's been too many egg farms destroyed in the last 2 years across egg production facilities. Chickens, cows, beef production, all of that's been targeted in the U.S. for sure.
And the Chinese as well. They're playing tough when it comes to agricultural issues because they know that we sell. Again, it's a money thing. We sell a lot of agricultural goods to China, and if we start pushing back too hard, they know where to press the button to release the flying monkey lobbyists and to scare people. I saw a picture the other day of I think it was in Kansas, huge piles of sorghum after harvest because they can't move it because it's not coming off the other end of the pipe.
Well, it is now, I guess, but I was going to say something there. Oh, media is key. Media pressure is key, and there hasn't been any to fight the flying monkeys for some time. So that's what we're trying to build. We got Pentagon credentials. We'll be in there December 1.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
Thank you. We're looking forward to really making a difference there.
Good. Well, there needs to be hard questions, and there needs to be direct questions. And
we're good at that.
And willing to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, we're good at that. Yeah. So let's switch to another area, Venezuela. What say you happening in the Caribbean? One of my favorite areas.
First of all, I'm a little torqued. I'm torqued because we have a carrier strike route down there. We're rebuilding Roosevelt roads as we speak. We got F-35s down there. I think we have at least a dozen of them. There's a guy up on X, Ian Ellis, who puts out on a regular basis a really nice graphic of all the forces. We had again today B-52s doing, quote, training flights coming down and then taking a hard left as they approach the ABC Islands, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, off of Colombia, and then head west over the Venezuelan. But you're not seeing much of it in the news. Besides people complaining about us swacking the cartel drug running boats, which I understand some of the concerns, but I think it's a righteous fight. It's a worthwhile fight. Those cartels and the poison they carry have killed, depending upon if you want to draw the line back, more than a year, they've killed over 1 million Americans. And I understand the demand signal coming from the U.S. Yes. But this, as anybody knows on Econ 101, this is a supply and demand issue. You have you have to adjust. You have to attack the demand and the supply. You've got to move that price point. You've got to make this business hard and expensive to do. And we have for decades. And when I was a I spent over a year of my life chasing drug runners in the Caribbean and Central America, as most naval officers of my generation and younger have done. And for decades, we did the same thing. And you can't, people say, well, they should be all intercepted. We've tried that. They have fast boats with $100,000 worth of motors on the end of it for a reason, because they're very hard to intercept and the ocean's very big. And you just can't get them all. We've tried something for decades that doesn't work. And President Trump has given us the ability to try a different tack. And it upset some of the usual suspects, but I think it's a righteous fight. And the individuals who are being killed in these boats, they are, in my mind at least, and I'm not bloodthirsty, I'm not heartless. I understand people find themselves in unwelcome circumstances. However, I and others of my generation have sent ordnance downrange, taking out sleeping Iraqi conscripts who have done nothing to nobody and won't, but they were on a target list. We have collapsed buildings that were full of nothing but people at 2 a.m. who were cleaning them before the other people showed up. And these things happen in conflicts. That's why nations need to be careful and people need to be careful who they associate and what they do. Because if you're going to strap on the helmet and you're going to walk on the field, don't be surprised if you get schwacked by the linebacker. You're playing the game. So that's my take on it.
Let me ask you, what do you think about the point that this is not really a drug issue because most of the drugs come through Mexico, and this is more about the oil or about the elections or about some other third parties in agenda? What do you say to that?
I don't think that's an issue. I don't think it's the oil issue in Venezuela any more than it was the oil issue in Iraq. Venezuela could disappear tomorrow and we would have no problem getting the fuel we need. Yeah, there'd be a spike in oil prices across the world. There, going back to the nation we talked about before, Venezuela and Cuba, and to a lesser extent Nicaragua, they are places where the Chinese have great influence in our hemisphere. And they are a source of bad faith actors in a variety of ways. Now, we do have leftist governments. For instance, we have a hard left government in Brazil. We have a hard left government in Colombia now. However, they're not Venezuela. There is a good argument to be made that the last Brazilian election wasn't the cleanest election in the Western Hemisphere. But it's not the same type of leftism that you see in Venezuela, which is more the Cuban and Nicaraguan variety. As a matter of fact, when you do look at South America, I should look it up, but I get Ecuador and Bolivia confused all the time. One of those two nations, after 30 years of socialist rule, actually elected somebody who we would call here a center-right to right-wing free market president. Chile recently has elected a right-of-center government again. And that is the drift. And you have nations like Uruguay, that's a nice little miniature California down there in some ways, but better than California in their governance. And of course, we've seen an emerging miracle of libertarianism helping to fix Argentina, which used to have a per capita GDP. I think it was 87% of the US 100 years ago. Now it's a fraction. So there's positive things in South America, but Venezuela is a malignancy. And during the Biden administration, they enabled their transnational drug cartels to set up shop all through the US. And it's not just the drugs that are killing people. You look at just the one.
Oh, the gang warfare, the human trafficking, all of it.
Yep, the stuff in Aurora, California. These are not good faith actors. Like one thing that I read a while ago that I was like, you know what, you're right. You don't hear much about the Crips and the Bloods anymore, do you?
Yeah. No, you don't.
know, they used to be the most thought of as the most vicious, nasty criminal enterprises out there. No, they're not. Large place especially in the drug trade, they've been displaced by these South American drug gangs and cartels. And Mexico, which should be, I've mentioned this before, I don't think in this venue, but if anybody hasn't read Ulysses S. Grant's memoir that he wrote as he was dying of throat cancer, I'd advise people to read it. It's great. And the interesting part of that, when he describes his experience during the Mexican-American War, and he made an observation then that I think applies right now as well, that Mexico is a naturally gifted place, huge resources, hardworking people, great geography, but they have horrible governance. And a lot of that, America owns part of that, because the money that's coming out of our drug addiction is what's feeding those cartels that are corrupting those governments. I mean,
yes,
the Mexicans have agency, but we're not helping them. And all these cartels, they're coming out of nations that are being corrupted by them. And so that's a salutary secondary effect, that the U.S. has both the capability and the will to do things against these cartels that the resident nations don't have the ability to do. However, as we learned in Afghanistan, we may have all the watches, but they have all the time. If they look at President Trump and go, okay, he's been in power less than a year, I have X cash reserves, I got plenty of people that can be killed over the next few years. We've got midterms coming up here in the U.S. They usually slide back. I can hunker down for a while and I'll wait for the winds to change, and then I'll get back to business as usual. So they can wait us out. But again, I think it's a righteous cause. I don't think that deployment down there is sustainable.
It's a lot of money.
It is. It's a lot of money. I think, and I could be proven wrong in 5 minutes, but I don't think we are going to initiate any type of conflict in Venezuela.
I hope not.
Because, one of the things that
we can't afford it right now.
Oh, no, we can't. Not at all. And plus, Trump said no more foreign wars.
He did say that. Yeah.
It's like,
I'm going to hold him to that.
Donald Trump, does he want to be the next, quote, neocon, unquote?
Exactly.
Go around the world looking for dragons to slay? I don't think so. But I think he's trying to make a point down in Venezuela to the regime and the cartels. Because one thing that he did talk about before his first term as president that he never really got his hands around was the drug problem.
Yeah.
He was fighting for his survival for a lot of that. So maybe part of this is he's trying to play catch up for things he wasn't able to do in his first administration, because he was fighting enemies domestic by enemies foreign. I think that's probably the most gracious explanation for what we're doing. But if, as a former planner, if you told me, be prepared to do X, okay. Not that I'm going to, but be prepared to by time Y. I want you to do X. Okay. I would do what I'm asked, what my tasks are. I do my troops to task investigation. I would say, I need the following forces in order to be able to do this. And they say, okay, you've got it. What would I do? I would bring TLAMs, I'd bring an aircraft carrier, and I bring the U.S. Air Force as close as I can get to it, which actually Puerto Rico is not that far from Venezuela as people think. I think it's roughly, if you're driving out of Norfolk, Virginia, it's like a flight to Nova Scotia or Boston or something. It's not that far. And I would build that up, and then I would tell my boss, okay, boss, I got everybody here ready to play. Do you want us to play or not? And then it's the boss's decision whether he wants to play or not. And we go through exercises like that
Of
big
course.
and small
Yeah.
all the time.
So on that note, last, I guess, question or area, there's obviously some tension between China and Japan. Korea's involved, and then the Navy buildup. Those two issues. What are your thoughts there? Our Navy, where Chinese naval buildup is on steroids, and how are we doing? As I always ask you.
Right. We're not doing too great.
Yeah.
The Chinese are doing wonderful. They are doing, when we built our Aegis air defense program, which people are familiar with, that's our standard missiles, our SM-2s, our SM-3s, our SM-6s that can take everything out from a flying lawnmower drone to an anti-ship ballistic missile or a real ballistic missile. Rear Admiral Meyer, who was in charge of that program, had a great phrase: build a little, test a little, learn a lot. It was an iterative program where you would build something, you'd learn, and then you would quickly cycle and do something better and do something better and do something better. You wouldn't wait for the perfect solution. You would build a series of good solutions and it would get better.
Mm-hmm.
And by your fourth iteration, you have something that actually is really, really sexy. So they've got a new carrier coming online that is probably the equivalent of the old, conventionally powered Constellation class, not Constellation class frigate, but the old Constellation Forrestal conventional supercarriers.
Mm-hmm.
There has been, rumors that their next carrier will be nuclear powered. That would not surprise me at all. They have as much nuclear power experience as we did before we had our first nuclear aircraft carrier, the Enterprise. And what they're doing is they're doing generational growth every 5 years, what we took every 15 to 20 years, and what we haven't been able to do this entire century. We can't even put an already designed frigate in the water without huge delays. We've partnered recently with the Koreans to have them. They've bought the Philadelphia shipyard, and hopefully going to bring some of their management engineering techniques to help us there. The Japanese are moving from 1% of GDP to 2% and probably north of there. And that's not insignificant. When you look at the worldwide economy, it's US number 1, China number 2, Japan number 3. Japan is a much stronger economy and with a GDP to buy military than Germany or the UK or France. And they have a prime minister now who has the inclination not to be ashamed of being Japanese and being strong. And for those that have served with the Japanese or exercised with the Japanese in the Pacific, besides the fact that their equipment is incredibly well built, incredibly well maintained, the Japanese can be a little, and again, this is just my American bias, they can be a little rigid. They may not be able to think on the fly as well as we think we can, or at least we used to, but that's okay. They are, the more Japanese warships we have in the Western Pacific, should things get sporty west of the international date line, they may not join the big fight, but what they will say is like, Uncle Sam, I'll tell you what, this part of the Pacific, we've got it. You worry about other things. However, the new prime minister especially has been very, very direct where they will come to the defense of Taiwan should Taiwan be attacked.
Yeah, that's what caused all this, may have caused the shellfish die-off.
Yeah, and Taiwan was at one time a colony of Japan. And in recent years, they have a very, very good relationship with Japan, business and culturally. And that I think is very, very interesting. Of course, the Chinese are very triggered by anything Japanese. But that's, Japan has a choice here. She stands on her own as a nation who's independent with agency and concerns, or she becomes a fief of a resurgent China. And Korea is going to have that same decision. And poor Korea, she has historical issues with Japan, but she has longer term historical issues with China.
So let me ask you, the last election didn't go well for our side in South Korea. So
No.
and now they're saying they're going to help us build ships. I mean, how does that work?
Money is an incredibly attractive thing to nations. And I think the domestic political situation in Korea is kind of like the US and the UK relationship, where some of the things that's going on domestically in the UK right now is incredibly unattractive.
You think? You mean
However,
like putting people in jail for tweets?
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't do somebody. No, I'm not bringing my phone to the UK. I'm going to get a burner phone when I go to the UK next week.
I'm concerned they're committing suicide. I don't think they have the will to survive as a nation, but that's another podcast.
I think your concern is spot on. I don't know whether you ever watched the Lotus Eaters podcast, but those guys,
I have been referred to them. We have a European group that does a podcast with us. It's called Eurobites. I've got two Germans, two Germans and an Austrian, and one of them lives in the UK. And so it's a really good mix of countries, and they referred me to them.
Yeah. But we still have that security arrangement with the UK that we try to keep a firewall between the growing decay of the UK and as far as that Anglosphere standard of freedom and the security requirements. Same thing with domestic politics in South Korea and Japan. I think at the end of the day, the threat that we all face to a resurgent People's Republic of China will outweigh some petty domestic political issues, unless you get some type of revolutionary left-wing government in either place, which I don't think is going to happen.
Okay, well, that's encouraging. Well, thank you. Is there anything else you want to discuss or get out?
Well, I'm probably going to put this up on my Substack tomorrow too, because it really has hit on me. Usually on Fridays, I do a thing called Full Bore Friday, where I will come up with some, inspirational example of heroism, leadership, or just a badass ship like the HMS Warspite or the USS Arkansas or something like that, just as an example about what happened in the past. But about a week ago, I think it was, the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, he put out a very impressive memo on something that I've changed my mind on a lot over the course of the last 15 years, and that has to do with suicide and suicide in the military specifically. And I'd encourage everybody, you can just Google Secretary of the Army suicide, and the memo will come up. It's one of the best written things I have seen by a military leader, either civilian or military, in a very, very long time. And unquestionably the best thing I've seen written on this topic that is a serious issue for my generation and younger, especially veterans that I've ever seen. And it's about coming into the holiday season and checking in with people. And trying to be that one phone call, that one email, that one text that somebody who has suicidal ideations, it'll break that chain of thought, and just a 5-minute conversation can save a life. And it's really tough during the holiday season. So I know there are a lot of people out there who've got Thanksgiving come up and Christmas, and whether you're in the military or not, if there's somebody inside your circle of acquaintances and friends that you haven't reached out for a while, that you think, especially people who have had, financial or marital issues or something else like that, just give them a call, tap them on the shoulder, let you know that they're thinking about it, which is basically what he says, but he's kind of operationalized it based upon what the Army in Alaska has done in the last 18 months to really impact suicide amongst their soldiers up there. Anyway, that's just as we go into the holiday season, that's something that I think the Secretary of the Army taking a lead on, that whether you're in the military or not, it's a time to maybe tap people on the shoulders you care about that you haven't talked to for a while, who may not have a table to go to at Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Great idea. Great point. I would add to that I was just at the Children's Health Defense Conference down in Austin, and there was a big panel on the guys who fought the vaccine mandate or getting back in. But if you go to armedforces.press, we have the trailer up from that panel on the new documentary is coming out. And Mark Bashaw, Captain Bashaw, who's now back in the Army, he went into the psychotropic drugs and the weaponization of drugs and mental health against service members for different reasons. But his brother killed himself, and he talks about how the drugs are driving. If you have somebody who's vulnerable and then you put these drugs in their bodies, there's a big problem. So anyway, you might want to take a look at that trailer.
I definitely want to look up on that, because I think most people know folks in their life, but for some reason, people think if you have a problem, if you give a pill, it's going to solve it. It doesn't.
No, it makes it worse, especially with these drugs. Yeah.
And everybody's different, and it rewires the brain. And
yes,
it's heartbreaking. But I'm glad y'all are doing that, Todd. I've missed it, but I'm going to catch up on it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's on AFP. So anyway, thank you, Commander. We'll have you back down the road as always, and appreciate your insight.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the time. Hope you have a great holiday season.
You too. Take care.
Celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7. I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
When Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah, we'll give him a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. Oh, the men will cheer, the boys will shout, the ladies, they will all turn out and they'll all...
Welcome back to the SCIF. Hope you have a good weekend planned. We're looking forward to the holidays. We'll announce the show schedule for the holidays as we come into next week. So look out for that. We've got Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen on next week. Going to be a great show. Not sure, probably Monday, maybe Tuesday. A lot of good people coming on, as we are known for at the SCIF on our guests. Check us out on podcast if you missed the show, and sign up for our social media. CDM1 on Rumble, please. Sign up for our YouTube if you haven't done that. Subscribe. And CDM_press and at Real L Todd Wood on X. Thank you. Had a good week. We're going to have a better week next week. So thanks for joining us on the SCIF. Take care.